Oh yeah, welcome to another episode of Abby of the Lemur. Oh, crap. Well, it seems it's not running real heavily in the government or the military or anything like that, but it seems as though more and more people are finally acknowledging the fact that there was a separate race of human beings that came into existence right around the time of World War II. I think most of them cropped up around New Mexico, and a lot of that could, of course, have been because of the atomic testing. And if you want to look, I think that particular race of people just kind of proliferated between the 40s and the 50s before people finally realized there was something going on and decided to snuff them all out. You know, I've heard a lot of stuff about how a lot of the kind of mixed races of people like the Melungeons and the Kallikaks and whatnot were kind of targeted by the eugenics crowd, and real nasty business. You know, they took all these people, doctored up pictures of them so they looked like they were cavemen or whatever, and you know, just basically hounded those people out of existence. And you know, the government's really not owning up to any of that kind of activity as far as this particular race of people went. But if you ever knew any of them or saw any pictures of them, and unfortunately, you know, these people's pictures were not doctored, just literally children of the atom, I guess you could say. A lot of their faces were just kind of distorted. You know, they did have like the kind of low foreheads, a lot of them, and the protruding brow, would you say? I don't know, just kind of slope-browed people, and you know, their noses and mouths were all kind of fucked up, and you know, they had all kinds of problems. A lot of the time they were hard to understand. I know a lot of people who went through the belief that a lot of them were retarded, or a lot of them were just stupid and incapable of really learning the way most of us learn. They were actually intelligent people, and a lot of the time you couldn't understand what they were saying. It wasn't like they developed their own language, they spoke English, but at least the ones here in America, I don't know, you know, what happened with that particular race in other countries, but they just kind of had this sort of pidgin English going. Most of them couldn't use their vocal cords very well, and you know, they just kind of talked like, they just jabbered. They were almost, they just kind of jabbered, kind of spoke their own deranged form of English. A lot of them did have kind of natural technological savvy. They didn't know what to do with it. For the most part, you had a lot of these people who were just, I don't know, a lot of these folks were, well, they were deformed. You know, what can you say? It was the nuclear testing and everything else that came out deformed. They were their own separate race of people. They came out and they were deformed. You know, people that had like arms missing. And you see sometimes even some of the younger kids just sitting there with like little soldering guns, taking a bunch of metal rods and pulleys and whatever, trying to solder them on, create like an artificial arm. It didn't always work out the way it should. I mean, they did have an amount of technological savvy, but it didn't always work out the way it should have. It's like, I think a good deal of what you saw was they'd be cordoned off to reservations and killed, or if not killed, at least then marginalized and, I don't know, cut off. We used to have a few of them in my neighborhood back when I was a little kid, and they'd have like 3 or 4 people, they'd all be related, they'd be like family, there'd be like 3 houses in a row, they'd have all of them. Mostly they got it through I don't know, I think some of the patriarchs of those families were the people who, if you ever saw Atomic Cafe, they were the people who marched off into the mushroom cloud, and there would be the sergeant up there saying, okay, now you'll notice that the mushroom cloud is the most beautiful explosion you've ever seen, and, you know, march into the radiation. And so I think a lot of them, at least to start off with, had these kind of things where the army would take care of them. But, you know, you can't allow that kind of a mistake to go too long. But you looked in their houses and, you know, I mean, when you went by their homes, it's like the grass was all overgrown and, you know, they'd be outside, like I said, you know, kind of soldering fake arms onto themselves and not doing it terribly well, you know, just a bunch of metal rods and rusty pulleys or whatever that wouldn't really work. And, you know, after a while, there was this mass exodus. I don't know, like some kind of an exodus into the wilderness or whatever, but they all decided that their days were numbered and they had to get the hell out of Dodge fast. And I just remember these people just gobbling and yodeling to their kids, and they'd all just have their belongings in backpacks and, you know, tie up rags with their clothes and everything, and they'd just all be heading out of town on foot. And I think me and Billy broke into one of their houses once, and, you know, the whole place was just encrusted in mildew. I don't know, just all these old pictures of old family members, and most of them looked alright, but it'd be like just a big mess in the kitchen, you know, dead dog lying under the table. It had been dead for quite some time and it stunk. But, you know, they really couldn't take care of themselves terribly well, but, you know, I mean, after a while they were all just being hunted, gunned down by agents or whatever, you know. And a lot of folks in the neighborhood said good riddance, you know, who needs them? You know, they were human beings. They, you know, they're human beings who deserve to live like everyone else, and people are all just making fun of the way they talked and all that. You know, and it's kind of like, you know, I mean, I don't know. Just all these historical injustices that just end up getting kind of swept under the rug. You know, happy, happy, happy in America.